All right. So I guess welcome to the first episode of Fog Yapping, I guess I called it for some reason. Seeing as how this is a DVD podcast, it'll probably be the last episode too because they are all just completely cursed to fail. I don't know why, but to mitigate that, I'm trying to do this like not on schedule. It'll just sort of be whenever there's something worth talking about, whether it's a patch or a new killer, new thing happening in the community, whatever. I think by not adhering to like a schedule, I'll save myself some like doomer vibes because there'll always be something to talk about, and then we'll convene, I guess, the great minds of DBD when that happens. So today, joining me on the first inaugural episode, we have Otzdarva and OhTofu. Hello, guys. How you doing?
Hello.
Yo, doing good.
Good, excellent. I should actually hold on. On podcasts, don't they usually like do like the bass really up and like the mids down like this? Isn't this like? Aren't you supposed to like sound like this? This is like the podcast voice.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm falling asleep already.
All right. No, I'm not. I'm not gonna do that. I'm not gonna do that. All right. So today's topics, I kind of want this to be more of just like a free form conversation thing. I think that's a lot better. So if we like veer into something else that's interesting, then that's totally fine. I got a couple of bullet points here, but today's main topic I want to be about the anti-slug and anti-tunnel changes, how they didn't quite come to life, but they're probably cooking up something very similar to what they did. And I want to go over our thoughts on what they attempted, how they can maybe do it a bit better, what they shouldn't do, and just everything surrounding that. And then maybe we'll finish off talking about Myers and Crossu before they come to life. Sound good?
Looking forward to it.
Excellent.
Yep.
All right.
I'm down.
All right. So let us go with, I guess let's just go line by line, with getting like our bearings on how we feel about each thing that they originally proposed. So let's start with the 90-second slug pickup. What do you guys feel about that?
Bro, I'll just come right out of the gate and say it's fucking terrible. I think the anti-tunnel stuff, like I don't want to get off topic. I think the anti-tunnel stuff makes sense that they want to address it, and I think it makes sense that they want to add things. I don't think slugging is an issue at all. I don't know if this is like an opinion that's just me. I think like slugging when it's like an S tier killer maybe is kind of insane, right? But I think that's more of like an S tier issue, right? I think that's like a blight issue or like a nurse issue. But I think like other than the S tiers, I don't think slugging is actually even an issue at all. And I feel like it's just fine. Like it's like a very all or nothing strategy that the killer goes for. And it either works if the survivors fuck up a lot, or it just backfires because everybody recovers and then you have no hooks to show for it.
Well, we could look at it in like at least two different angles, right? Like, let's look at slugging from a fun perspective. What happened if everyone in the team gets slugged? Well, we now have a really, really useful feature called Abandon, which is a bit lame, but I've sometimes abandoned a game where I know a killer is not looking for me, or I know a killer is just on purpose slugging me for 4 minutes. So on the fun side, I'd say with the Abandon feature, we're somewhat covered, and I don't think you needed a lot more on top of that. Now, if we just go of like on the different angle of like, do survivors need some sort of baseline help against like long-term slugging? Maybe in some extreme cases, maybe, but I don't think a 90-second blanket timer that then stays on the whole time afterwards is appropriate. I could see maybe that a survivor, after being on the ground for 2 minutes, can pick themselves one time, and that's like a thing. But I don't know. I think it gives an advantage to survivors. It actually creates situations where survivors are encouraged to cooperate less. Like if I'm in an endgame situation and I have a gate 99 and my teammate got slugged, my best play is to just hide for 90 seconds. When they pick themselves up, now the killer has to worry about them. Then I can open the gate and then I am safe. So I think it actually pushes the game in a worse direction somehow in terms of balance, but also I would say even in fun.
Yeah, that's an interesting point. It would make people play more selfishly because they know they can abuse the fact that their teammate eventually will get picked up, and so they can work on something, or like you said, just hide to avoid that. Like, I'm kind of mixed about it because I try to think about in the amount of my games that I have someone slugged for like more than 90 seconds, and it's usually never, except with like a couple of killers. Like if you're playing like Oni or like Twins or something like that, then you are far more likely to have that scenario occur. But I think what they're trying to do here, they're trying to like, because, you know, DBD has a huge negativity bias. You have people say, I got tunneled every game. Then you watch their stream, they're tunneled like 2 games out of the entire thing. It's just, people tend to just remember that stuff. And I think what behavior is trying to do is lessen the amount of those types of games that people have. So those games where you get slugged for 3 minutes, by a twins or something, even though it's happened you encountered one twins in 6 years, you're going to remember that and attribute your fun to that. So they're trying to mitigate those types of scenarios a lot more, which I can see where they're coming from. But I feel like in scenarios like that, yeah, it's more like if certain killers like Oni and twins have to slug as part of their kit and they have to slug people for a long time, I feel like that's not really a systemic game problem. That's more like, okay, maybe we should look at the twins. Maybe we should look at, Oni. And it seems like they kind of did that with Oni by giving more of an incentive to hook with more blood. But I think that's more like killer specific than systemic.
Did you see what the killer, what the Oni change was on the hook? Do you see how much it was?
It was like it was like 2 to 5, right? It wasn't very much.
It's so little.
Yeah,
it's so little.
I would love to see them.
The truth is, even if you forget the 90-second thing, the fact that survivors have a self-guarantee pickup eventually, and they also begin to be able to crawl and recover at the same time, that alone is huge. Yes. Even a little bit of slugging, like the strategic one that you would do because you down a survivor and you see a gen 95% not far from you and you go, oh, I could go and kick it and maybe get the hook and save the gen, you are risking losing that survivor permanently. And it's so easy to lose it in the PTB. So yeah, I do think they went a bit far, although the idea is redeemable, and I totally agree this is probably what they were thinking about.
So I'm definitely more mixed on the 90-second slug pickup thing, because I feel like if there's a killer that incentivizes you to slug someone for almost half of their entire bar, that's something that should be looked at for like the killer itself. But the moving while slugged thing, that I completely disagree with. Tofu, I think you're kind of the same there.
Yeah, it was kind of insane. Like I feel like even already like base kit sometimes, like I don't know if this happens to you guys, like I have a lot of hours in this game. Sometimes if I slug someone even just for like 15 seconds to go like like I don't know, kick a pallet or
they're gone,
I'll come back and I'm like, where the hell did they go? And I'm like that has to be tenacity, right? And I find him and it's not even tenacity, and I'm like, wait, that's just baseline crawling, you got this far? Like I feel like it's wild how like much you cover in such little time with like any of that. So yeah, I feel like I feel like that just punishes any little bit of slugging at all, right? Which I feel like, again, that's the kind of thing where I feel like it kind of just pushes you to do this exact like staple play style of like down person, pick them up, hook them. Because it's like the second you start trying to do anything else strategically, you just get hardcore punished, and I think it's not good at all.
Here's an interesting tangent. Do you think Dead by Daylight would be a better game if the game was balanced around that down pickup, or do you think the inclusion of slugging and stuff like that is an interesting thing that should be part of the game?
That's so interesting, because it's funny, if you would have asked me 5 years ago, I would have said the down pickup would be better. But I think nowadays I'm like way more inclined to think that I like more strategic play from both sides is more interesting. I think a big problem this game has is that Survivor needs to feel more like a team-based aspect of a game, and I think there should be more like incentive to have like strategies that you use and like play as a team as Survivor to counter things like this, because I think that makes it really interesting once you really get into it. So I do think that like having more different strategies, I think, is way better for me. I think it has way more depth and way more like freedom to how you play. I think it's just way better.
For sure. Like, I think the decision, like, as soon as you get down as a survivor, just the decision to, do I recover here? Do I crawl somewhere safe? Do I try to make to a pallet? I'm near a hook, so I need to, like, you have to make these decisions, and that's a skill. Like, you have to, like, know the correct thing to do. But I think we're talking about, higher level type of gameplay, and that's sort of ignoring the entire casual player base that is in solo queue and stuff like that, and doesn't have the option, really, to even, like, coordinate things with their teams and stuff like that. Oh my God, why is my text-to-speech on off? I gotta turn that off real quick. But do you get what I'm saying? Like, you're viewing this as more of like a potential skill cap competitive thing, and I'm viewing it more of like, okay, but how's the casual audience reacting to it?
Yeah. I think you can do like a little bit of a balance of both of those still. Like for instance, I hope this isn't getting too off topic, but like for instance, like I think an idea for the slugging thing could be like what if like they added a feature where like if two people were slugged at the same time and they were both fully recovered, they can like or even if just one of them's fully recovered, if two slugs like get together, like if they can crawl to each other, then they can like pick each other up. So it's like you can kind of have like baseline anti-slugging when multiple people are slugged for a long time, because then you can like help each other up from the ground, but you have to like get together to do it, right? I feel like
that was an idea suggested on Reddit a long time ago.
Yeah, I saw that.
And it had overall massive support from the community. I personally really like it. And compared to some of the other changes that we will be discussing tonight, it is an elegant, simple solution that even to a new player makes sense. If two people are near recover, they climb off each other, they help each other. And they don't need to know arbitrary, after 90 seconds, you start moving at 1.2 meters per second. And then when you are 95 recovered, you will be able to pick yourself up. So it would make sense. I actually like that solution a lot more. I have a really hard time imagining why the devs didn't go for that.
So is that the ideal anti-slug solution you guys would actually propose for the game?
I like it. I think what Tofu mentioned makes a lot of sense. The way I see it is that as a killer and as a survivor, there are strategies that can have a big payoff, but also have a big risk. For example, why don't survivors just stay injured the whole time to save time healing? Well, because if you all stay injured, you could go down faster the next time, right? And why doesn't the killer slug from the beginning of the game at 5 gens? Well, because if it doesn't work out, unlike hooking, you have no permanent progress, right? So there are strategies that have risk and that have reward, and you can do them if you know what you're doing, but if they backfire, well, they backfire bad. The thing about the next update is that it kind of puts survivors in this situation where they can almost do no wrong. If they get tunnel, well, they have some help. If they get slug, well, they have some help. And they will not really need to do any kind of like it really won't be so much of a good idea to do teamwork the way you had to, because it's so much better to just get slugged by yourself and heal by yourself and do gens by yourself. And I do think in that you do lose some element of strategy and risk, and in that I agree with Tofu.
So I guess it's like, where is the line that you draw between making it casually acceptable but still retaining the actual skill cap that makes the game interesting past a certain point? And that's, I think, a really hard spot to find.
Yeah, see, but that's why I think that solution that we were just talking about is so good, because I feel like it combats only the most excessive of slugging.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, for sure.
I feel like that's really the issue, is like the super excessive slugging. Whereas I think just strategic slugging here and there is usually not viewed as that bad.
True.
So I think that's the kind of solution I think would be perfect, because I think what we had on the PTB was way more leading towards just it was too much, to the point where even strategic slugging just got hurt, right?
Right.
But I think that kind of a solution would be perfect, because it would just I think you need to just combat the super excessive, ridiculous kind, and I think it's pretty possible to do, to be honest.
Yeah,
it also helps in situations where a killer is maybe desperately trying to use the blindness status effect. Knockout has been nerfed, but we still have things like third seal. So in a worst case scenario where you have 4 people that are very clueless and they're trying to help each other off the ground and they don't know where they are, and maybe you're playing in a duel and you don't know where the other guys are, if 2 of you get left on the ground for a long time and you're bleeding out next to each other, well, you help each other up. It just makes so much more sense.
Yeah, I think a lot of people did see that on Reddit and thought that'd be a really interesting idea. Do you think they would ever implement something like that and go back on what they have kind of hinted at that they are going to try a form of? Or are we kind of just thinking about wonderful things?
I actually think they could, because this simple compared to some of the other things they've done is relatively simple and relatively easy to undo. Some of the other things that they've done, like obscuring the hooks, that had new graphics, it had new animations. And I'm not so sure they will be. Well, wouldn't you need
you would need a new animation if 2 survivors were able to get themselves up, if they kissed each other, right?
Possibly not.
So they would just crawl next to each other and then just stand back up and run.
There's so many things like that already in the game. You can pick yourself up with no, I don't feel like it's. For a long time, I don't know if you remember, we had survivors crawl into a hatch, and if you took the hatch, the survivor went from the ground to standing up and then jumped down. And okay, it wasn't pretty, and eventually, yes, some sort of animation down the line could come.
Yep.
But gameplay-wise, it works. Same with the vaccines on Nemesis, which for 2 years were the same animation as Self-Care, which was very ugly.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah, that's fair.
I would say that can come down the line even.
Yeah. In terms of the anti-slugging thing, is there one thing we can agree on, that the quality of life of auto recovery is fine? I don't really see a downside to that.
Yeah, that might definitely be aimed at new survivors. Because I think some new survivors might not realize, like, oh, I need to hold a button.
Yeah,
I feel like as long as it shuts off when you're crawling.
Yeah,
right?
of course,
I don't
of
think
course.
You should be able to, yeah. Like if it auto shuts off when you're crawling, then yeah, I don't see why that wouldn't be a thing, honestly.
Okay. AJ in chat actually mentioned, do you guys think a pinging system would be too unthematic, or could it actually work in DBD, and should that be there?
Ooh, that's a good one. I actually feel like, okay, I feel like this might be like a whole separate thing. I think that the HUD already gives way more information than people actually give credit to. And I think if people took more time to actually focus on like learning how to use the
totally
HUD to
agree.
like read and also communicate with your teammates. Like for instance, there's scenarios where like someone's on a hook and it's like you can almost communicate by like who's doing a gen, right? Like if you get on a gen and stick it and your teammate isn't, you're basically telling them, hey, I'm on the gen, you got to go
save, right? Exactly. Yep.
Or likewise, if all your teammates are on gens and you're not, and you see that, you're like, oh, it's on me. Okay, like I should, like there almost is like a communication already, sort of. It's just like very like vague and like, you know, loose. But I do feel like, okay, like the current way that you can quote unquote communicate, I think requires a lot of like game sense and knowledge, which to me is cool because I have a bajillion hours. But I do think like for the newer people, it is a little much, and I do feel like maybe a system like I think a ping system that like pings your location, no way. I don't think that should ever exist.
Yeah.
Like you should never be able to like ping and be like the killer's right here and ping the exact spot or something, right? But like I think if there was just like maybe on the HUD, if there was like a like preset lines that you can pick from that were like I'm doing objectives or I'm gonna go for the unhook or like killers near me, right? I think that would be a-okay with me. I think that would be totally fine, and if anything should be added, I think that would be great for teamwork. I think
combine that with some simple, for example, anyone outside your party you have a permanent bond with. Ooh. Like a bond effect. So that means that if I am playing with Scott in a duo and or something similar to that, right? If I'm playing with Scott in a duo and he has to communicate something with me, well, he just tells me over Discord, same as any other time, right? And if I'm playing with two randoms and I see one of them saying, I'm going to be healing, and the other one, I need rescue, then just knowing their positions and knowing that on the HUD already, that would be so enough, so sufficient for most players to feel a bit less lost. Yeah, sure. I think that would be good.
Do you think there could be a scenario where friends that play together but don't want to talk on voice would then be disadvantaged?
Not too much compared to solo players, because you could still run perks like Bond. So you're like, oh, I'm gonna play with my duo and we're each streaming and I'm just gonna run Aftercare. I'm just gonna run Kindred, and it would be the same. It would be very, very similar. So I don't think it would punish people that play together. Like they would still be way, way better. Either way, I'm sure you've noticed if you play with friends, even if you're not in comms, you know what they're gonna do because you know they're not paying attention, right?
Yeah. Sure.
So anytime I'm playing with friends and I look at the HUD, I know, okay, he's going to go for the save. And I don't need to let go of the gen panicking, thinking that someone is going to die or get to stage 2 because I know that my team is reliable, right? So no, I don't think it would be a massive issue, although I can see the concern some people would have with it.
Do you guys, like on the topic of slugging, think slugging is as big of a deal as people make it out to be? Because I would say no.
Yeah,
no, definitely not since the abandoned feature.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, that's definitely like the more long-term slugging thing, but I think a lot of people kind of complain about even getting slugged for 15 seconds because they crawled under a pallet and the killer has to check the area. There's definitely there's some legitimate criticisms of it, and slugging, I think, it's a very not interesting thing in the desert trying to handle that. But at the same time, it is I think, necessary portion of the game, and I don't think making it completely go away would be the correct decision. So I can kind of agree with you guys there. They went completely overkill. The only one I'm not completely against is maybe, is there an actual value you guys would be okay with for the automatic unbreakable thing? Like 180 seconds? Is there a number you would actually accept?
No, I think it needs to have a teamwork aspect. Like I think it would have to have like the two people coming together thing. I think a solo individual being able to pick themselves up around for any amount of time is just silly. I just don't think it's a good idea.
That's
I mean, if you make it longer, it is true that you make it a bit less valuable, but I do agree with Tofu. Like, the problem is that with the ability to self-pick yourself up, the optimal play for some survivor scenarios literally is hide for as long as it takes for your teammate to get picked up. Say you and I are playing in the end game. I need to open a gate, but I'm by myself because you went down. My optimal play, if I haven't opened a gate and there's no timer, obviously pressuring us, is to hide in the basement or whatever for 2 minutes or 3 minutes or 4 minutes until you can pick yourself up, and then we start doing stuff. So how can that be fun? No, absolutely not. Like just something different, right? Or like a one-time pickup, or something that does not force the best possible optimal strategy in any given time to be the most boring one possible.
Yeah. Do you guys think that the concept of slugging is misunderstood by most people? Because I very often see like people go like, oh, well, if you slugged that match, you would have won. But it's like, it's not like a magical power that just lets you win the game.
Yeah.
It's more capitalizing when survivors are like grouped up or in like a certain clutch scenario. And I feel like a lot of people not understanding that slugging is not a power, it's more punishing misplays. It really kind of like, I don't want to call people entitled because most of the player base they just don't care to learn all of this stuff, and they don't really have to. I'm not like saying everyone's got to be like a pro comp player, but a lot of the frustrations with slugging are actually kind of due to the survivors making mistakes and not understanding why that's happening.
Yeah, absolutely. And I also feel like a lot of the times, like, there's no way for to say this without sounding kind of like a dick, but like, I feel like a lot of times it's like people seeing content from people and then kind of just like regurgitating what they see without really understanding it, right? Sure. Like the whole like slugging experiment thing that happened a while back. Like you guys probably remember that, where they like tested like kill rates when they like went for hooks and then like, you know, just went for 4-man slugs and that's it or whatever.
Yes.
And like people like see that, but they don't really understand like, I guess the actual like ramifications and like what happened there and everything.
Yeah.
Right. Like, they don't really understand like the very all or nothing strategy of slugging. And yeah, I do feel like it is very misunderstood. I agree. Like, I do think a lot of people seem to have this concept of like, why don't you just 4-man slug every game? Like, it's the easiest way to win. And it's like, no, not really. Like, it's actually extremely risky because you either win completely or you just like entirely lose because you get no progress.
Dude, it is
a little.
It's just an umbrella term at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Some people talk about slugging when it's 5 seconds or when it's 4 minutes. Some people talk about tunneling when you get chase of the hook for 1 second or where you get triple hook at the start of the game. Like,
yeah.
Unfortunately, like without sitting down like we're doing and establishing all the boundaries and stuff, I think it's to be expected that the community with so many different mindsets, so many different levels of experience, they're going to misunderstand each other and they're going to be broad in their language, and it's just going to lead to people, I don't know, using the same word for totally different things.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. So I guess we can move on from the slugging thing, but I do agree that the whole that Reddit suggestion of like crawling together, that's probably the best way to do it. And I think we can. Any other final like discussion points about the whole slugging part? All good.
Okay, now for the real meat, right?
Yeah. Okay. So now the anti-tunneling part. This is I think most people had major problems with this. Obviously me included. I think. Let's try to work this from a different way. Was there anything redeeming about that whole system?
I think the redeeming thing, like it's like hard. It's hard to say this because I feel like I want to be like, this was good, but you know what I mean? I'm trying to ignore that like but part.
Yeah.
Like I do think hypothetically, if there's a world where they made the game have a meta where the killers felt like the best way to win was not to tunnel, then that's awesome. And I feel like the PTB, I guess, technically did that, although I think it did it in like a horrible way.
Yeah.
Like I think it did it in like a horrible way, but I guess technically that was sort of achieved, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Thoughts? Any redeeming qualities?
I would say that kind of for the first time, the developers have given killers a reason to hook survivors that is not related to perks. Because in a lot of ways, hooking survivors makes them stronger in the current DVD. Mm-hmm. And sometimes you do feel a bit like an idiot. Like, why am I hooking survivor number 2 and number 3 and number 4 when I should just hook survivor number 1 repeatedly? Why? Like, if you don't have perks, the only reason why you wouldn't want to hook survivor number 1 3 times in a row is because you're afraid of maybe eating an anti-tunnel perk like decisive, right? So having some kind of like base kit encouragement for the killer to hook different survivors without perks, that seems like a bit of self-awareness, right? Like that seemed good. I'd say that's redeemable.
So I think the problem is, in order for those to be an actual like deterrent to tunneling, you have to make the incentives equally as good as tunneling. And I feel like that will basically always be impossible because just getting a player out is almost always going to be the best thing you can do. So they can give you these little bonuses and stuff like that, but at the end of the day, if it's not better than getting a player out, what is the point? People will still just use the tunnel thing, and then stronger killers can still benefit from these new systems that they don't even really have to worry about. So, how do you handle this?
What do you think?
I have interesting thoughts here that I wasn't sure when to chime in with because it might be a bit of a tangent.
No, go for it.
Okay.
OhTofu actually has a whole system in mind that he made a video about that is such a good watch, by the way.
Oh, yeah?
Is that what you're gonna bring up?
No, not even actually. My opinions are changing all the time. Like I swear my opinion's different like every month on things.
Oh.
But like, okay, so I feel like I want to start this like a little anecdote. Okay, I mean, Scott, you probably remember like you know the time when I was on the exact same page as like most people about tunneling, like years and years ago, right? And like I think for like years and years I've held the same sentiment that like tunneling is garbage, it needs to go, and it's like the number one
You've
thing in this
changed,
game.
bro.
I know, you changed. you know the tofu, I do.
This isn't you, Tofu.
But basically, what happened is like I played for like 8,000 hours or something before anything changed for me, right? Like I played 8,000 hours and I just hated it the whole time. Basically, what happened was I kind of discovered like it was kind of me like giving comp DVD a try, really. But for the most part, it wasn't really comp DVD. It was mostly just having my eyes open to like the potential like macro plays and team-based plays you can make as a survivor team to actually counter it. And then I realized like how interesting it was and how much actual like strategy and depth that went into it and how like cool it was to actually play as a team and try to counter something, and also how satisfying it is. Like these days, for instance, I think the most fun thing that ever happens to me in DBD is if I'm like solo queue and then the killer is like tunneling, but my other solo queue teammates are actually like smart and punish it well. And again, we communicate with each other like via the HUD at least somewhat, right? Like obviously, like we mark when we're doing gens or whatever and like show each other. And then like sometimes you can even like beat a tunneling killer, or maybe you get like 3 people out with only 3 hook stages or whatever. And it feels so good to be able to do that. Like it feels so satisfying, like strategically. Sometimes I don't even necessarily get chased all game, right? And like again, me from 5 years ago would be like, that's the most boring thing ever to play a survivor game without getting chased. But like me now, like I love it. It's so interesting. Like the actual like tactical strategic gameplay that you do on the survivor side is so fun. But I feel like I would have never even saw the game from that point of view if I didn't get introduced to the like competitive macro play of Survivor, right? It took me 8,000 hours. I had 8,000 hours in the game and it never was revealed to me ever, right? Because there's nothing actually in game and there's nothing like anywhere to introduce it. So I personally think, and I could be wrong here, but I think that the number one thing that the game could and should do is introduce more in-depth tutorials that like give you some kind of basis of actual strategy and like kind of help guide you towards understanding the actual like strategic part of the Survivor game and helping people like view it from that point of view. I think if there was like better things in place to teach people, because again, I went 8,000 hours, right, without ever learning it because there's just no system. But I feel like if I did learn it at like 1,000 hours, I probably would have changed my mind back then too, right? Like it was just the second it was introduced to me, my mind instantly like started switching, and I was like, oh, wait a minute, I can do this, I could do this. Like I started realizing like all these things. And it just completely changed my view. So I think that's, to me, 100% what the game needs. Is it needs like in-depth tutorials, like way more than what we currently have. Like there should be like 6, 7, 8 different like little like gameplay scenarios that get played out, right? Like how to double unhook, right? Like you could do that. Like maybe you should like pull up a little video that shows people getting a double unhook and explain what it is, and then it drops you in a scenario where like you and a bot Meg double unhook a Dwight off hook against like an M1 killer, right? Just to show how you do it, you know? And then maybe like another scenario of like, this is like, you know, what to do if a killer isn't leaving a 30-meter proximity of the hook, right? Which is like, let the person sit on hook for the entire like 60-ish seconds before they go second, and like do gens far away and have a person stealthing near the hook to get the unhook last second, maybe double unhook if you need to, right? Like I feel like if it just gave you like a few scenarios where it like was like, here's a situation that you might run into in game, like a very common situation that happens a lot that you might run into, and this is how you could potentially handle it. I feel like if you just gave people that concept, that idea, then people would start viewing the game from that like strategic point of view more often, and I think people's minds would shift a lot towards this whole topic.
So you're
Can I bring up
a
really quick point about that? One thing that you do notice from the comp side of DBD is that there's nothing personal to being the person being tunneled out. If you're playing as a team, and it's your turn this round to be the one that gets chased and maybe dies at 5 gens, you understand that you're doing your job, your team is doing their job, and if you run the killer even for long enough and they get a 3-man out or enough to be the win condition, that's good enough, right? And everybody's happy. I think the main game, the non-comp game, does not do a very good job of doing that. If you run the killer for a long time and you die, MMR winning or MMR losing aside, you do not really get a pat on the back or any kind of acknowledgement that you might have carried the team or that you did your part. So there's sometimes no sense of camaraderie whatsoever.
I feel like I disagree with that.
100% agree. You feel that way? Please.
Yeah, because if I if I get tunneled and I happen to have like DS OTR and the killer essentially throws the game trying to get through all these layers of protection to get me dead.
No. Let's say you're a bit less successful. Let's say that you do die.
Okay.
Right. But hey, it was your turn. Sometimes anyone can be tunneled, and today was your turn. You get tunneled. But hey, at least your teammates made it to the end game and they got a better result than if you had died even quicker. I don't think the game does. I don't think the game like ever makes you feel like, hey, you died, but good job, soldier. You get them next time. You did something for your team. I don't think you have much of a camaraderie sense with random survivors ever. And maybe encouraging that a little bit more, maybe encouraging people, like before we even get to balancing tunnel, right? You could soften the blow of being tunneled by making you feel a little bit better about it.
How would they do that?
Well, here's the thing, right? If you, for example, are doing a totem, right? While someone else is being chased, that person that's being chased gets emblem points, right? And same if you're doing a generator. If you're doing a generator and that person is being chased, they get generator points towards the emblem system. So the game somewhat indirectly understands that person, even though they're being chased, they're kind of enabling generators to be done. Am I right?
Yeah.
I think even that is... Sorry, I'll let you do.
What I'm trying to say is that as a survivor, sometimes I will go and save someone else knowing fully well that I'm going to die, just because I'm streaming and I know it's kind of fun to risk it. But the game does not really encourage you to be courageous. The game does not really encourage you to take one for the team. The game, in fact, will often punish you in terms of blood points for being the person that dies out. If you die early, but you enable your team to do well, you don't really reap the rewards very much. And I do think that maybe giving small incentives to encourage a more collective teamwork mindset could be the first small step to make tunneling feel less bad. Even if you then change other things about tunneling, the person being tunneled should not feel too as bad as some people do right now. That's what I'm trying to say.
Am I like, maybe I'm different here, but if I get chased and I still die and 100%, but then my team gets to live because of that, I still feel satisfaction from that. Like I still feel, even though the MMR considers me to lose there, I feel good about that game. So I feel like I don't really need a pat on the back. I'm like, yeah, because of me, everyone else got out. I still feel great about that. And you're saying you don't think that's happening?
I don't think the game does enough on that front. And I think it could do a little bit more.
I do think like you're a certain kind of person there, Scott. Like I feel like I'm the same way too. Like I also feel that way, but I agree with Otz too. Like I do like the right person is gonna feel that way. I would say maybe even like maybe half the people would probably feel that way. But like I still think the game, like Otz is right that I think the game doesn't really like for instance, when you're like a new player, especially like if you remember being new, like everyone cared so much about like pipping and like getting to rank 1. Like obviously like us now, we don't give a shit about being grade 1 anymore, right? Yeah. We've been there like a million times. But when you're new, you care about that kind of stuff a lot. That's like your main goal, right? So yeah, like if you like get tunneled out and die, and even if your teammates get out, it's like if you like don't pip that game, you're like, well, what the hell? You know what I mean? Like I'm the one that made us win and I don't even get the rewards for it. Like what the hell? You know what I mean? And I do think like in general, I think it's wild that the game hasn't done this yet. Like I feel like DVD started out as like this, like, you know, 4 people out there with like limited information, just trying to like work together like a very slight amount to get by. But like, I'm sorry, that vision of the game I feel like is dead now. Like this game is not like this like horror game anymore. You can't have a horror game where people have like thousands of hours in it. It just kind of loses its horror aspect. You know what I mean? And the game is more of like a team-based game now, right? And I do think that kind of stuff should happen. I would go even further than what Ott said actually, and I think that blood points should just flat out be shared. Like I think like you could maybe give whoever's doing the action more. Like maybe if you do a gen, you get like, you know, what, like whatever it is right now, like 1,250, and then everyone else maybe gets like 750 or something. You know what I mean? And like same thing with like in chase, like even like chase points. Like maybe if you get a stun, you get more, but your teammates get like a little chunk of it, right? I think like all blood points should just be shared, honestly, just all of it. And same thing with emblems too. Like I think emblems, I think everything should be a team-based effort. I think pipping up should be everyone on the team pips up or nobody on the team pips up. There's no like, oh, I gotta let this person die because I need to live to get my pip. Like it should be like, no, you like. I think everyone's strategy and like gameplay should be for the good of the team. Like
okay, I do see a small concern with that.
Yeah, me too.
Because suddenly you would like I like the enthusiasm and I like the direction, but if everyone collectively loses or everyone collectively wins, suddenly you find yourself in situations where it's like, oh my god, we were gonna pip, but then Michaela went into the basement and did nothing for a minute, and now we safety pip. What the hell, Michaela? What are you doing, man? You just threw the whole team, man.
I'm okay with that. That's a trade-off that I think is like it's gonna always be there. I mean, if you look at other team-based games,
I'm a bit scared about the idea, but like I respect it.
Yeah, people have also said that with like sharing hook states too. Like, yes, that would make it better in that regard, but then you'd have like, you know, if you have like a baby Meg on your team, you're probably going to lose regardless, but it feels even worse when you see your own resources being dwindled because of someone else being bad. And that is so frustrating. So that's the obvious downside to that.
Okay, yeah. So I have a way to maybe try to get us back on track about the tunneling. Okay. How big of a problem do you think tunneling is like compared to other issues? And what would be your quick solution if not what we had in this patch? Scott, what do you think?
I don't think tunneling, I've done multiple experiments where I don't think tunneling is nearly as bad as people say it is. Like, I think my actually got tunneled rate was like 4 in 50 games, and then I think 9 in 50 like contained tunneling. Again, not a huge sample size or anything like that, but anecdotally, I really don't think it's a very widespread problem.
Do you think, let's go a bit wider. Do you think for some people, maybe beginners, it's like a big deal, or is that overblown as well? How do you feel about that?
I do.
Maybe for people other than yourself.
Yeah, I do think, for just newer players overall, killers are very likely to go, oh, why would I not just hook this guy again and kill him? Yeah. And survivors are just going to not have the skill or resources to deal, or even the perks to deal with that happening. So for new players, it is without a doubt a completely shitty thing. And it's very hard to think of a way to mitigate that other than kind of what Tofu said. I think it would be better to inform people rather than to punish doing it. But it's also... like here, I'm going to role play a casual player and I'm going to talk to Tofu, but I have 17 jobs and 50 kids. I don't have time to watch 20 tutorials at the start of the match. So how is that fair for me? What would you say to that?
I would say sucks to suck. You better find the fucking time. Like, I don't know. Like,
hopefully the MMR system puts you with other people that also have 50 kids and 17 jobs.
Yeah, but it doesn't. That's a whole nother topic. I feel like MMR worked, then we'd have a way less issue with this whole discussion. But the problem is it does mix in new players with good players. So it's so hard to like think about a way to accommodate both ends of it. I wouldn't even say it's hard. I would say it's actually just straight up impossible due to the amount of disparity in skill per match. Like you can't do it.
Tofu, do you still feel like that idea you had about making essentially tunneling very difficult, but also making maps a lot unsafer? Would that still work? Would you like to talk about that? Because I like the idea a lot when I heard you talk about it. Or is that something you don't think will ever happen in DVD?
I mean, I do like the idea, and I do think, the map changes is a whole other topic. I don't even know if I want to get into that right now, because that's like a whole podcast episode.
It is.
Yeah, that's huge. But I think because the whole map fix was basically a way to make weaker killers stronger, and then the stronger killers a little tiny bit weaker, just to try to even them out a little bit. And I feel like making everyone more threatening. But I do think that's almost needed with the anti-tunnel changes, because I think if you don't add that with the anti-tunnel changes and you just add some kind of way to make tunneling impossible, then it's just the game feels near impossible. I mean, I guess the game already might feel near impossible with lower tier killers, but you're taking away the potential options that they could have to win with lower tier killers, which I feel is rough, right? Because I feel there's already so few options, right? If you get a good team and you're playing I don't know, Trapper or Ghostface or something, it's there's already so little options for how you could win, and I feel just taking away even more of those just feels so bad, especially with nothing in return, right?
Yeah.
And I feel it's also hard to give something in return that affects because again, anything you give in return also then affects the high tier killers too, and makes them even more insane. I don't know if you guys saw how ridiculously OP Spirit was in the PTB, but Spirit was literally the best killer in the game in the PTB. Like the haste that she got off hook and the fact that she can phase at people with like that crazy haste was just, it was like permanent mother-daughter ring. It was crazy. And like, I feel like it's so hard to like, it's like so hard to like actually like add these like things that like try to help the low tier killers without making the higher tier killers just absurd. So even that like idea I had, like the idea I had was basically like similar to the PTB, which was like giving people that got unhooked like no collision, like basically complete like immunity for like a set amount of time, and then they could like bring themselves back into the game by like doing an objective or something, or like I mean obviously the set amount of time ran out, but the time would be like 1 minute or 2 minutes or something, and then like but like it was almost like base kit OTR, but instead of OTR it was like you were completely invulnerable, and then you can like bring yourself back into the game at any point. But then you would also have to give the killers like extreme buffs to counter it. And even then, I don't even know if I agree with that anymore.
Yeah, that's
like,
a drastic change.
Yeah, it is. It was, I mean, like what I was trying to do with that is I was trying to give an example of how extreme of a change you would need in order to make tunneling not the best play. Because it's kind of like you said earlier, Scott. Like you said that too. Like whatever the change is has to be like proportionately powerful to the actual pressure you get from tunneling someone out, which is crazy. Like it's really, really hard to like actually making the killers not tunnel. You have to do something insanely big to make that not the best play, which is wild.
For sure. The go ahead.
Could I get your opinion quickly on whether or not we should have haste in this or any other system? Because I feel like I'm going insane, and I might be the only person that thinks like small amounts of haste here and there are going to very slowly make this game unbelievably like inconsistent and weird, and basically so like the variance is going to be so big from time to time that you're not really going to know what the hell you're doing anymore. I dislike the way haste was implemented in this.
You think? Are you saying haste should just be gone in general for like in all aspects of the game, or just?
I remember a time when there were like 5 perks that gave haste, and all of them were under very, very obviously we're not talking like sprint burst haste, right, or light haste.
Sure, yeah.
That's like a 3
No,
second,
you're talking
right?
about the
like,
gaslighting haste. Like, is he faster?
Yes. We're talking about haste that stays on for a long time, or that has small effects, or now once again, or that stacks with other forms of haste. I think that sort should be very limited to some very, very small amount of perks. But every other patch, we have a new haste perk, we have a new this, and I do think it's just.
So your issue is with the lack of clarity that someone is moving slightly faster or not, right? And
it's not even the lack of clarity, that as well. But keep in mind, right? After hooking a survivor, what do you do with Hag? You sit down and you put a trap maybe next to them. Maybe if you're playing Hunters, you go and reload, right? With some killers, after hooking a survivor, you need to do a little bit of like maintenance, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then with some killers, you can immediately launch yourself or teleport yourself across the map and get the full benefit of that haste. Tell me, what exactly does the haste do for me if I'm reloading as a Huntress? But as you mentioned earlier, Tofu, on Spirit's actually quite helpful. And on a bunch of other killers is quite helpful. So I feel like this is a change that makes the strong killers stronger, the weaker killers not that much stronger. And it's just muddying the waters, and as we mentioned, like making everything even more unclear and even more vague. And I personally hate the fact that haste is even a part of this.
I'm trying to think who like, yeah, obviously Spirit's a very good example, but like who does haste in that scenario really benefit among the top tiers? Like, doesn't do anything from Nurse or Blight or Ghoul, or like all those killers have movement-based powers that are not. Go ahead.
Yeah,
I would actually argue Ghoul did get helped a lot because he can like jump right on top of someone. I mean, he already injures everyone for free, right? He can basically jump right on top of someone and then still have haste left.
Oh yeah, no, I think
one chase.
Yeah, the haste should shut off when a chase starts, because the whole point is to get people to start new chases, right? Quicker. That's the whole point of it. So yeah, I think it should turn off with chase if they were to even go forward with that. But my whole point is that like I don't really think there's like too many killers like on the top end that really benefit in that direct way like Spirit does. Spirit, her movement speed is multiplicative with that haste, and that's gonna
It's not necessarily that a lot of killers benefit at the top, or that a few killers benefit a lot at the top. It's that it's yet another complication, another arbitrary thing that happens at a given time that impacts killers differently.
Mm-hmm.
Here's one thing they could have done, and I don't think would have been insane, right? Do you guys remember that some time ago they made all pallet and generator breaks faster?
Oh, you mean like to their current state right now?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Right, okay. I don't know if we agreed at the time if that was good, but that was a simple one that affected every killer equally, right?
Yeah.
And we get used to it, and the game now gets balanced around that new speed, right? Same with the vaulting speed. It used to be very, very slow. You guys will remember back in the day. So they could have made it so that picking up survivors for all killers was faster. Transporting survivors for all killers was faster, right? They could have done that. And that would have not necessarily required you to get the calculator out and see which killers get affected more or less. But they didn't do that. Instead of making you save a second going to the hook, they give you a 5% haste that's going to save you 0.2 seconds when going to your next chase, but it's going to work differently on different killers. I think one of the biggest problems of this update is the fact that there's no simple, elegant solution. It's complicated, band-aid, arbitrary changes. And I think that is an issue. It's going to make the gameplay loop of this game more and more complex over time, to the point where if you explain the game with all the details to a new player, you will be like, well, when you unhook, you get 10% haste for 10 seconds, but if you self-unhook, then it's 15 seconds. But if the killer hits you, then you get this. And it's going to be so unbelievably dense. Why aren't we going for more simple solutions?
I'm going to do a slight devil's advocate there and say, yes, there is an insane amount of, just little value changes and stuff like that. But I would argue most casual players don't have to know that. They don't have to know, oh, I'm moving 10% faster. It doesn't really affect the decisions that they're going to make in any way. Like, yeah, it's a lot of stuff, but them not knowing it isn't really going to change too much. Now, I would say the other things they did, like, why the hell are my gens blocked? Because I hooked this guy twice in a row. Like, that's definitely more in your face like that. But these, like, kind of subtle haste things, yeah, on a high level, like, you definitely have to pay attention to that stuff. But I would argue casual players can just ignore it, and them not knowing those values doesn't really change what they're doing.
I don't know. I think if you look at the problem of like, okay, we want the killer to get back into the action faster. Do we start making all maps overall a bit smaller? Take some of the bigger maps, make them smaller. Well, that would take a long time, right? And given the 5% to killer, oh well, that's really quick and really immediate, and we can do that tomorrow. So I can see why the devs go for the easier band-aid type solution. But I also see how long term, if you make maps smaller, that doesn't conflict with anything else, and every new change can be accommodated for that. But I also think we are starting to have a serious creep of features, a serious creep of like modifiers, and I don't know, man. I don't know. I am getting a sort of anxiety thinking about it, of what it will be like a few years from now.
Is that not? Go ahead.
I was gonna say I think I agree that the tunnels were extremely complicated. I think that's like a big part of it. I think the overcomplication of things and not keeping it simple is definitely problems. I just don't also know how to fix that is kind of the problem.
That's the problem though, is the game itself is becoming more complicated. I mean, like, we've all seen the comparisons of Huntress's power and then, like any other modern killer's power. It's like an essay versus throw hatchet. It's the game itself is just running out of ways to handle chasing people around woods, so they have to just concoct more and more, complicated things in order to keep it fresh. But
I have a question. Could you guys give me your thoughts on the idea? And this is one that I presented some time ago, not thinking much of it. I thought of an idea, right, that was not very invasive for the gameplay and only helped survivors in cases where they were getting very, very hardcore tunneled. And what I mean by that is like the same survivor pretty much being triple hooked.
Okay.
You know how that sometimes happens in Blight games or Nurse games or in comp, right? One survivor just gets eliminated and then it's a 3v1. So in that situation, I made a video where I explain I would give survivors like a sort of shoulder the burden so that no matter what the killer does, they would never get a kill before 4 hooks. So if you try to hook survivor A and then survivor A and then survivor A, well, you're going to have to hook that survivor a 4th time. And someone else will steal 1 hook stage from that. And I thought that was so simple. I thought, they probably not do it because maybe they don't care about tunneling. But obviously I was wrong because they do care about tunneling, right? We've seen it in this update.
Yep.
Wouldn't something like that just be simpler? Now with that, you address the most severe cases of tunneling, the most difficult, unavoidable, oh my God, I'm being chased by a nurse at 5 gens. What do I do? I'm going to die. What do I do? Those extreme cases. And the other ones that are a bit less extreme, hopefully you have perks and teamwork to deal with that. Why didn't they go for something simple like that? What is the downside?
So you're saying basically a base kit shoulder the burden kind of thing?
Yes, basic shoulder burden is completely optional. You can do it if someone's getting tunneled very early on. Obviously doesn't work in endgame. Obviously doesn't work if the killer has out of the hook multiple people. Something simple like that eliminates the most edge case scenarios, the most fragrant cases of like someone really trying to tunnel early on. And it doesn't need haste. It doesn't need a hook counter that the killer now sees who's been hooked. It doesn't need the hook to be obscure. It doesn't need all of the stuff that they did in this update.
So you're going to get
I have a bit of a...
Go ahead.
I was gonna say I have a bit of a follow-up question to that. So like, for instance, like what I see happening there is I feel like if that was implemented, I feel like all the people that are currently tunneling and like playing to win by all means would then just still 4-hook tunnel. And like, is that better or is that like still a problem? Or like, because I feel like I don't know if that really solves the problem or if it just kind of like slightly lessens it. And it's like, okay, instead of a 3-hook tunnel, now it's just every game is like a meta 4-hook tunnel. Like for instance, if I was playing to win, like if I was doing like a win streak on killer or something, and there was like a baby Meg, I would absolutely just tunnel her for the extra hook state. I don't even care. Or I would like try to like force a trade on one of the unhooks. That way I can.
Okay, you have a big problem though in this scenario. Yeah, and I think so at least. If you were going for a more soft tunnel approach where you were maybe going for this baby Meg, but then maybe going to the baby Dwight and then going to the baby Meg and then going to the baby Dwight and then eventually tunneling the baby Meg or something like that, then you would get away with it, no problem, right? You've tunneled, but not very much. You've been alternating between one survivor and another. But if you went exclusively for the Meg, how are you going to deal with the 70-second hook stages? Because if their teammates do not unhook her, the first hook is 70 seconds. The second hook is 70 seconds as well. And now, okay, what do? Do you stay close? Well, okay, you're giving her anti-camp. Do you go for the gen kick someone else?
Real quick. Can I cut you off real quick?
Yeah.
This is, I think you're basing this around survivors actually playing around hooks correctly, which I feel like if they already did, then tunneling wouldn't be a problem. Like this boils right back to like my tutorial thing. Like that's the whole point, is that nobody plays around this correctly. Like no one lets people sit on the hook for 70 seconds. No one does that. Everybody rushes in and unhooks 10 seconds on the hook and lets the killer tunnel like immediately. Like that's exactly the problem. I feel like if people knew what they were doing, then we wouldn't need any of this to begin with, right? So like 100%, if that came to the game right now, I just think me as a killer, I guarantee you I would just.
Wouldn't it be better in this case for the best anti-tunneling change for there to be a message on the screens of new players that says, "Hey, dumbass, don't unhook the mech yet." For 30 seconds, actually, and that would somehow be the best anti-tunneling, because right now, realistically, if survivors are using their 70-second hook timers, even if you only have to hook them 3 times as opposed to 4, or something like that, like that's still a long time. That's still a very, very long time.
I could not agree on how much survivors don't realize how much of a resource their hook timer is. Like that is one of the most frustrating things is if someone is getting successfully tunneled out and they've been on the hook for 69 seconds both stages, your team should be winning. That is so much wasted time where nothing else is happening if that's the only person being hooked. So but like I said, how do you tell the casual player base that and just stick that into their face other than like a giant pop-up? Don't do this, you fucking idiot. Just leave them alone. But like, how do you actually do that?
Okay, counter argument to your counter argument. A lot of people insist that new players don't tunnel that much. Like, I know we say like, oh, new players don't know what they're doing, but a lot of players insist that the tunneling, and I honestly kind of think that I can't really give you a direct quote, but I also think the developers feel this way. The new players lobbies are so chaotic and killers have so many avenues to win, right? That I don't think the tunneling is happening primarily at low MMRs, right? At least I don't see it that way.
I think it's like mid MMR. I think it's what it is.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's probably it. Mid MMR, you have the best combination of survivors are not smart enough to like delay the hook, and killer is not maybe experienced enough to like pressure multiple survivors. So maybe that's where tunneling happens like the most.
Yeah, and I think that's also when, like, I think around that experience level is probably when killers are starting to, like, get serious and take it seriously, right? I think when you're new, everyone's just like, we're playing as Freddy Krueger, he, like, having a good time, right? Like, I feel like once you kind of get to, like, that middle level where you're like, okay, the game's kind of lost its novelty, and now I'm just, like, playing it, and I'm just enjoying it, and I'm trying to win, right? I think that's when you kind of get into the, like, let me try to, like, actually get good at this game, as opposed to just enjoying the novelty of it. I think that's probably, because realistically speaking, I feel like that's an important thing to talk about, too, is that I do feel like the game in its current state is like, I'm sorry, like if you're playing killer and you just want to win, like most people do. Most people when they queue up for video games want to win. Like it sucks, but I feel like you should tunnel. Like you really should. Like I feel like you should. It
No,
sucks.
there's no, it's not a debate. Like the only thing preventing you from tunneling is if slugging is easier, or if you think you're not gonna get away with it because you catch a scent of their perks and you think, okay, this guy is gonna hit me with this perk and then this perk and then this perk and
or if it's just a really strong survivor too. Like if it's a really strong survivor, you shouldn't do that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well,
obviously, you have no guarantee that the next survivor is not as good or better, but yeah, of course.
But like with the whole base shoulder the burden thing, there's also the obvious counterpoint of, some killers are so shitty against a good team, you just have to tunnel. That's the only option you have.
You know what? Here's another idea that just came to my mind. If a survivor is hooked twice in a row, on the second time they're on a hook, a mirror version of them appears on every other hook available in the map. And now they can be rescued anywhere in the map, make for example, Will Make It or Botany now an insane anti-tunnel perk. Because if the Michaela has been hooked twice, I can now go even in basement or somewhere really, really far, unhook her and heal her in 8 seconds. Now, is that a perfect idea? I'm sure not. But the problem, like what I'm trying to bring up is that this is an idea that would not require, 3% haste here, 5 seconds of auto reading here, extra percent on, like it would be simple. It would be elegant. It would be immediately visually
I'm trying to think of a new player just seeing all of a sudden their survivors now like on 17 different hooks going, what the fuck is happening? What do I do?
That's gotta be simpler. That's gotta be simpler. You put that in the tutorial and it's still gotta be simpler than the whole, okay, if you get on hook, you have 10 seconds where you can go through the killer, you have 10 seconds when you move faster, but afterwards then you start the killer, but also if you heal yourself or you touch a kid, I do think eventually that amount of small detail is going to
But wouldn't that still disproportionately, like, Blight's not going to care if you get hooked across the map. He'll just be on your ass in 5 seconds again. Meanwhile, Pig is like, I got to run over there to tunnel now. I feel like it punishes weaker killers more.
My point is, if you're going to do something about tunneling, obviously tunneling right now is something that better killers do better already. That's not something that any change would immediately, like, correct. Right, that's why we're all experiencing this game, and we all don't have the same solution because it's a complicated problem. Yeah. But if you're gonna do a change, do something simpler, in my opinion. Is my whole point. I think this update fails the moment that you have to break it down into 300 different things. Yeah. And let's not even talk about the fact that some killers have different stats. So your pop or your base kit pop is different on Nurse. Your base kit pop is different on Crashway, and it's different on Blight, and it's different on what was it else? Dracula.
So you're against that feature. You don't like the killer specific.
I am against that feature. I am against that feature.
Really?
Yes. I 100% am.
Huh.
I think that feature was needed based on the solution they gave. Like I do feel like they needed to do that because of the solution they gave, but I feel like that is like overly complicated. Like you then have to keep track of who the S tiers are so that you can know that they have a lesser like I don't know. It's just goofy.
See, I don't agree with that because again, if a brand new player picks Crossu and kicks a gen, they're not going to go, I noticed the piston moved exactly 10%, not 20%. So now that's like I don't think you don't have to pay attention to it. It just happens.
That's actually a good argument. You're right. I guess you really don't have to pay attention. I guess it's more just for people that actually really I guess it's for the more serious people that care and have to look into it. It just feels like a little ridiculous, I guess. But I guess you're right. The casual players could just ignore it. Yeah.
I think the game itself is impossible to balance due to the disparity between the weakest and stronger killers. And the only way outside of making the weaker killers, a bit more towards the middle at the very least, is a system like that acknowledges, hey, Blight is better than the Pig. The game should be slightly harder for the Blight than it is for the Pig, just because unless they're going to balance every killer in the game appropriately, which I just never see happening, I felt like that kind of system is actually good, not bad. But you guys are against it.
So, I think with the moment you put that system in, right, you give up on the idea of balancing all killers. That's it. It's just an admittance of you know what? It's been out since 2020. We give up. Blight's too strong, guys. He just has less pop, less mobility. Less aura.
Yeah, I agree. I think they have given up on that.
I don't agree with that. It would be the same as Ormond is too big. Let's just put a portal that teleports you from shack to main, and that's how we fix it. No, don't do that. Just fix the underlying basic issue instead of trying to correct it with small adjustments.
There's too many issues though. I don't think it's realistic. You're basically saying you need to buff like 24 killers to be like up to a mid-level or something like that. I don't think that's like they're too slow. They don't make changes quick enough for that to happen. I don't think it's realistic.
I don't think they need to buff 25 killers to be as good as Blight.
Not that much.
They can nerf a few killers to not be as good as Blight, and they can change a few maps to not be as painful if you're not Blight. And I think that would be long term and medium term, and it would be difficult. But once you do it, it's done, and it's there for the remainder of the game. If this game has life in it for another 5 years, and they balance the killers, that's wonderful. And if they make long-term changes on the maps, that's great. If a map works, think of, for example, Saloon, think of, for example, Cold Tower. These are maps that people like. They're not perfect and they get bugged every other update, but people like these maps, right? Same, think of killers that haven't changed in years. Huntress. People like Huntress. And for the most part, you haven't had to do like a comprehensive rework, right? So if something kind of works, you have it already. But I think that if you start adding these complications, you are basically giving up on the idea of making it work in the first place.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I think it is because the rate at which they introduce new content is the rate at which they also try to fix old content. So if they fix if they fix a killer and release a map, then there's a new killer and a new map that has problems, and then they have to spend time fixing that. Like it's a never-ending cycle of them never actually being able to balance as much stuff as they have to because they keep introducing new stuff that's not balanced. So it's been 8 years. I don't think it's gonna happen. I think a simple like system like that just has some base modifiers is not great, but it's more reasonable.
So let me just get ridiculous and strawman this a lot. Would you be for the idea that killers have different lunge distances, that killers have different stun stun timers?
I actually would be okay with that. I think Pig should have like a shorter attack cooldown than Blight or something.
I don't think you know what you're wishing for. The developers of this game are so unbelievably willing to make changes based on stats that I don't think it would be insane that in a few years we're like, oh, we noticed the nurse is underperforming. She is now stunned for 5 seconds less, or 5 frames less. We noticed that the trapper is overperforming. He now has a miss cooldown of 0.5 seconds more. And that is going to result in a bloat that is already like...
How is it bloat though? You don't have to pay attention to it. You don't have to know, oh, my attack cooldown 0.2 seconds faster is Pig. I'll use this to my advantage. You'll just...
It is a bloat, Scott, in my opinion, because the developers have to deal with it, especially when it comes to revisiting things.
That I understand.
Especially when it comes... Like, think, for example, okay, I'll give you a really, really quick example to illustrate my point, and I promise I shut up after this. Do you remember when the perk Superior Anatomy came out?
Yep.
It made you vault really quickly. What did people try to do immediately on the PTB? They put it together with Bamboozle, they put it together with Fire Up, they gave it on Myers, who has a natural faster vault, and then Myers was bugged and couldn't vault windows, like he would get like bugged. And I think that happened on Wraith as well. So you're gonna have eventually some sort of like future, if we go down this road, where the patch notes are gonna look like this, right? Nerf the new perk Broken Bones because the Haste was making these 3 killers a little bit too fast on this map where they have a extra 1% Haste that we gave them because the map was too big, and on these cases it was bugged. Like, it's gonna be an actual nightmare.
That is a fair counterpoint. They cannot possibly foresee all of that.
Of that future where someone comes to your stream, you know, and they ask you, oh, is Brutal Strength good on the Throngler? And you're like, no, don't use Brutal Strength on the Throngler because he's 1% faster. Wait, no, hold up. 3%. No, wait, that was last patch. He's 4% faster doing this. It's just gonna be unbearable. Maybe honestly, I'm being selfish and I like simplicity. I like things being like clean and easy to understand, and the idea of like that muddy nightmare just really, really scares me. So maybe I'm speaking out of my own selfish like desires, but
no, I get it.
I'm scared.
It's a possibility. It's a possibility of complications for sure. How do you guys feel about the hiding the unhook state thing? I kind of hate that.
Oh, you mean like how there's no loud noise notification when an unhook happens? Because
the fog icon,
the black
right?
indicator on the UI, all that stuff where it hides it.
No. Yeah, I hated that. It just felt very weird and clunky, and I just didn't like it at all. Like, I don't know.
Yeah,
especially because like on the PTB especially, I feel like there was already so much incentive to not tunnel anyway that like I didn't even care. I was like, I don't even like
Right.
Like, if anything, I want to go for the unhooker. Like I want to know where that guy is. Like I think if anything, like I wanted that info because I didn't want to tunnel already. You know?
Yeah.
It's,
So, yeah,
it's so funny. It's so funny that there's like 25 perks that activate when someone gets unhooked, and they
Yeah,
still
and then
work.
they still work. It just is
And they
totally.
still work. It's oh.
Do you guys think that the any of the unique hook bonuses were worthwhile, like the increased gen kick or anything like that?
I actually think that wasn't bad. I think that was okay.
I think that's the most universally agreed upon okay thing.
Yeah. There's only one problem, but it's very minor. I don't know. I'd like to pick your brain on it. Please, Tofu.
No, go ahead. I was just gonna say I like the gen kick. That's all good.
Yeah, like the thing about gen kicks, right, is that if gen kicks only work when you kick the gen, and you show up to a gen 5 seconds later, after it pops, that's devastating, right? Like the difference between showing up to a gen that's like 99 and you barely manage to catch it and kick it, right? Normally you would do 5%, but now I forgot what it was in the PTB. It was like 15 or 20, right?
20,
it was 10 or 20, right?
20.
So the difference between showing up there a second too early or a second too late is insane, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you go from a gen being completed, which is completely permanent and you cannot really undo that, to a gen regressing now back to 75 and possibly more, and then possibly being hit by other subsequent perks like say an eruption or a surge or something after. So I thought it very interesting that even though the killers now really desperately want to get to the gens in time, more so than before, there were not really any changes to like gen speed perks or gen speed items. So as a survivor now, it feels like it was more important than ever to bring maybe deja vu or a toolbox here and there. Do you guys feel like the meta would switch into get the gen done, get the gen done, get the gen done more so than before, or is it already there?
I feel like it wouldn't. I don't think it would change that much. I mean, like hyper-focused stakeout has been one of the most insane things in the game since the combo came out, and up until recently, I've been seeing it a lot more. I haven't seen it too much. I'm starting to see it a lot more. I don't know if someone made a fucking video or something, but I don't think so. Tofu, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I feel like to me, inherently, I think as you make, and like if you were to make anti-tunnel less needed, I feel like that would then kind of open up that to maybe just be the next thing that cycles in, right? Like for instance, on the PTB, I felt like I usually run short of the burden even in solo queue, and then PTB, I was like, why the fuck would I run this? Like the killer's not gonna tunnel anyway. If he does, he blocks all the gens, so fuck him, you know what I mean? So I feel like if you made like extreme anti-tunnel, then maybe that would cycle in that, but I think that's the only thing that would cause it. I think still people are gonna run probably like anti-tunnel, really fast healing and stuff, but I feel like if some of that stuff feels less necessary, then I think the next step would be those. But I think it would just be because of that. I think it would just be because it's like the next obvious step once like if the top meta perks became less necessary. It's like, well, I might as well put on like Deja Vu now or, Prove or Resi or whatever,
Yeah, that's fair.
But I think it's just because of that.
Would you ever make the gen regression not be associated to a kick and make it a pain rest that happens, telepathically or something so that it doesn't really matter if you're playing a slow killer or a fast killer, the damage kind of gets done.
Yeah, that would probably be more universally fair because, the faster killers can pressure more.
I don't want to be like, painless, base kit and start that debate, but I feel like that might be better because then you could generally have a strategy unfold that goes in any direction, right? Oh, the gen took damage and I'm going to go there and I'm going to make sure that I defend the gen. Or the gen took damage, good, that's going to buy me time to set more traps or trap my totems or do whatever else because I'm playing Skull Merchant or whatever, right? So I do feel like maybe that could be considered. Right now as a killer, I feel like that big 20%, if you down a survivor and unlucky you, 2 gens pop, and now all of the gens are at 0% because the only gens that we're working on just both popped at the same time, which I think is pretty realistic scenarios in a lot of early games. That sucks. You got nothing. You got absolutely nothing, right? Like you got a 20% kick on your next kick, but it's not really going to do anything. I do believe that it lingers indefinitely, though. I'm not too sure about that.
It does.
That's why I think that is a lot better.
That is a lot better. If it doesn't have a timer, I do think that's a lot better because at least you, bank it for the next possible kick. It's still risky. Like you could get into another chase and never really have a chance to use it. But
yeah. How do you guys feel about the free barbecue?
I don't like it. I feel like it was weird because you also didn't even know like who it was supposed to be affecting to. It was like a little bit of information, but it just felt like unreliable and like for instance, I think what's good about actual barbecue is that like you can almost use that information as like, okay, whoever I'm not seeing, I know is probably close, right? It's almost like it becomes more valuable because you know who's not affected. I feel like every time I hook somebody with that like weird barbecue, I was like, I'm not even really sure who I'm supposed to be seeing right now, but I'm seeing like one guy, and like, does that mean everyone else is close? I don't know. Like, what the like, I never really knew what the hell to even like. And
well, do you want to explain why some people don't show up on the base kit barbecue? Because I don't think everyone will remember. I just remember, for the record, like how it works.
It was something like when you hook somebody, everybody that had less hook stages than the person you hooked, but also were more than 40 meters away, were revealed. So it's basically barbecue and chili on people that had less hook stages than whoever you put on hook.
Or equal to, I think, like, right?
Yeah, I think less than, maybe less than or equal to, No, I think it was just less than. I don't know. I could be wrong. I'm not sure.
I think it was, it was same or less so, because I can see it in the patch right here. But I feel like, I don't know, it was fine. Like, it was just like a thing. I was like, oh, that's neat. That's cool. Like, I wouldn't mind if they added, but I also don't really care. That's kind of what I feel about it.
Yeah, the thing about about having a base kit something is that the element of surprise eventually over time will be completely lost, right? So right now barbecue is better than base kit barbecue because barbecue is sometimes not expected. AKA someone doesn't know that you have it, they do something careless like heal in the open and you catch them. But in the next patch they'll know that you have it, so they won't heal in the open. Or if they heal in the open, they'll be expecting you. Or if they are not healing, they'll go into a locker or hide behind a gen. So I think the reward of the auto read, it's nice and it's great and I like it, but it also will probably kind of counter itself a little bit and people will adapt. So
yeah, for the record,
and it also doesn't show you the survivor that's dead on hook that maybe you are desperately trying to find. But
yeah, for the record, we know these changes as is are definitely not coming to live. The only reason we're even having all these discussions is they did mention that they want to revisit this system. Like, it doesn't sound like they're just going to throw it away. It sounds like they're going to try to do something with it. So the whole point of this was to try to like come up with things that might be less, bad for the overall game, whether they list it or not, or whether they, do anything like that. We're just talking as if there is some form of this in the future, which we're just going off their words. It is impossible. Do you guys think it's possible that they just throw the entire thing away?
It is. I think they've thrown even bigger things away. So I don't think it would be crazy.
The OG anti-slugging feature from like 3 years ago or whatever, like a long time ago, they threw that one away for the PTB. But I mean, you are right though that they definitely worded it as if they were not wanting to give up. I mean, I think it is possible they still could, but they probably don't want to. Like I would expect them to probably try more with it. Yeah, I'm
expecting at least another PTB with something involving these things. Whether it comes to live, I'm not sure, but I guess we'll see there. How do you guys feel about some of the perk changes that happened as a result of this? Like, I saw they buffed Rune to 150%. I was like, oh, that's nice. But now I don't know if they're going to go back on that because these systems have changed, and I feel like that'd be kind of sad.
Yeah, I mean, they gutted a lot of the slowdown perks, which was like, I mean, I guess okay considering kind of base kit slowdown. Even that, I don't really know if I liked. I don't really feel like that's necessary. Like, I feel like the slowdown perks could have stayed as is. Like Ruin, like the buff Ruin was actually kind of nuts. I love
Ruin Undying. That is my favorite slowdown.
Do you think Ruin's buff is that much of a buff when you consider that you lose the ability to do that 20%?
Because from the free gen kick,
Yes, yeah.
That's why they buffed it.
At first, I was like, "Oh, damn, they're nerfing Ruin. That's good. That's not bad. 150 seems like a good middle spot." And then I realized if you have Ruin, you are completely giving up, as long as it's up, the ability to occasionally do 20%. And in some situations, that might be...
I think Ruin's more worth it.
For sure.
150 Ruin is good, bro. It's really good. Like, it regresses a good bit. Like, it's kind of nasty.
Do you guys think they're going to go back on that?
I don't know. I think they said they were going to go back on like some of the changes, right? Because it was weird. Because some of the changes didn't really need, right? Like,
exactly.
Like for instance, like new Deerstalker wasn't really like they could just keep that as it was. So they don't really have to revert that. I mean, they could, but they don't really have to. And I feel like a lot of like the slowdown changes, like they could keep it nerfed or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. Like for instance, barbecue. I think barbecue was one of the coolest changes. I don't know. Like they could even just keep that as it is. Like I don't think they have to revert it. But
that was the bonus gen kick once you hook everybody once, right?
Yeah. Once you get everybody hooked once, it was like a 10% gen. You know,
5%.
Well, yeah, it was
plus the 5
to make it 10. Yeah.
Oh yeah, sorry, apologies, misunderstood.
Yeah, it's like every time you kick the gen, it was like instant 10%, which is actually kind of crazy, right? So like I thought that was kind of interesting. But yeah, I don't know. I'm curious how much they do and how much they revert. I mean, I do feel like if they didn't revert any of it and they just let it all come to life, that would be crazy. Because like all the meta like Pain Res got like kind of gutted a bit. Like Eruption got hit pretty hard. Like, there was a lot of meta perks that got hit. And I want to say quickly too that I think people like, okay, I know that slowdown perks can be frustrating for people. I think people would be in for a rude awakening if slowdown perks ever got completely gutted and then chase perks became meta. I feel like that would be a horrible, horrible meta, bro. If every game was like Bamboozle and Fury Dissolution, I would hate this game.
Actually see,
I would hate this game.
I used to disagree with that, but I think I've changed my mind about that recently. I used to think, oh my god, this Blight's got 4 slowdowns. Oh, this is gonna be so boring. But now I'm like, I think I'd prefer that than just the you don't get to do anything build. Even if they end up losing because they have no slowdown or aggression, your experience going against like, Blood Favor or Dissolution or something like that is like, I guess I'll just not play the game and die instantly. Like, that is actually worse. I agree.
Have you gone against that Legion build that everyone's running lately? It's like Eerie
Button and
Fury,
yep,
Bamboozle. Bro,
yep.
it's like that. It's like the pinnacle of what I'm talking. It's so boring.
That's
it's
literally
like,
the no mechanics build. Like, it's just,
exactly, yeah. Like in Chase, you just pre-throw every pallet and slam gens, and it's just the most boring gameplay. There's no like interestingness at all. And yeah, I feel that like that's what would happen if Slowdown got gutted really hard, right? Is that people would just start running a bunch of chase perks, and then like the chase would just become this like dumbed down, like I don't know. I think in a weird way, I think slowdown perks being meta is literally the best meta, and I feel like it can be frustrating sometimes, but I feel like it's way better than the alternative.
Yeah, I think that is. I definitely think that is true. I'm definitely curious to see what they actually stick with in terms of the changes, because they worded it kind of ambiguously, because some of the changes actually had to do with the new system, and some of them were just kind of like adjacent to it. So I guess we'll just find out on Tuesday.
I have a question for you guys when we have a minute.
Yeah, sure, go.
If these changes or something very close to it came to the game, do you think the killer variety gets affected immediately? And do you think it affects all MMR ranges roughly the same? Or do you think some wouldn't feel it? What do you think would happen? What are your theories?
I don't think killer variety changes. I think already if you want to win, you would just play the top tier killers, and I think that like I don't think that changes at all. And I think some people just play their killer because they like them no matter what, and they'll just deal with whatever problems come up. Like if you're like a trapper main right now, you fucking know what you're doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you're playing a horrible killer and you're just doing it anyway for the fun of the game. You know what I mean? But like, so I don't think killer variety changes, but I do think it does affect killers like differently, which I think is a bit odd, right? I think you would find like some killers suddenly being super obnoxious, and then other killers being like just kind of like easy pushovers. You know what I mean? Like I think it would affect balance in a big way, at least.
Yeah, for sure. I guess we can move on to the last 2 things I wanted to talk about. The Myers rework. What do you guys think about that?
I liked it. I know everyone's like, oh my god, dash slot, but I liked it. I thought it was really good, actually. I thought it was kind of interesting.
I think it's a rare time when they kind of throw the fidelity to the license out of the window just to make a killer that's like safe. And in that regard, it seems successful, right? It's got a dash, it's got a bit of stealth. That's things that work well in other killers that seem easy to balance. So I think from a gameplay perspective, it's better. I'm also really happy that new players do not have to go through the Tombstone Evil Within achievement.
That needed to change for sure.
Oh my god, that is just unbelievably awful. And the fact that it's been in the game for like 9 years is just, I'm really, really happy for the future DBD generations. So yeah, like I see the point of the people that mourn the killer, that mourn like the identity and the fact that it's kind of now like what some people call dash slop or whatever. I see that, but it might have been the lesser evil, honestly. Between that and Tombstone, I take the Tombstone.
I do feel like maybe I'm a weird like person to give opinions here, because I've watched like maybe one Halloween movie ever, and I didn't even really like it that much. So like I'm just like kind of whatever about the actual like lore of Myers. And to me, it doesn't really feel like his identity got changed that much. Like he did, like before, he just kind of stalked people and then had a powered up state, and then that was it. And now it's like he still does that. It's just that his powered up state does a little more. Is like all it is now. And like on top of that, I think one of the biggest, most underrated features of New Myers that I think people did not talk about enough was the fact that you can literally just at any point dip right back into pure stealth, which I think is a big thing that OG Myers, like current Myers, I guess, like live Myers is missing. Like once you go tier 2, you can never go back to that like pure undetectable again, right? You're permanently out of tier 1. And I feel like the fact that you can just kind of dip back and forth between stealth and then not stealth is huge. Like it actually gives you like a pure hybrid game style where like you can go from like dash killer one shot down right back into like stealth. You know what I mean? Back to dash one shot down and then back to stealth. It's so interesting, and I think it like gives them like a lot of variety in the way that you can be played, especially with like some of the add-ons too. Like that one add-on that makes you 4.4 stealth was disgusting. Like actually new Scratch Mirror 4.4 Myers is going to be gross. Like so good. And like I don't know. I think to me he kind of like, again, his identity to me I guess is more just what I've known from DVD, but I think he keeps his identity of being that like variety killer, because I feel like that's the thing with Myers. He's always had that like, oh, you might run Dead Rabbit Monitor and do like small terrorists tier 2 or blah. Like he's got all these different play styles you can do, and I feel like he still kind of keeps that while also making him more viable at like a higher end, which I think to me is like a great change.
Yeah, honestly, it is a bit funny that we complain about the identity, because the people that want to keep Myers the same way he is now, they run perks that completely shadow that identity. Oh, I want Myers to be a mysterious, slow-moving killer, but also play with your food, and I'm going to tombstone people, and I'm going to be moving at like 130 movement speed across the map with coup de grace so that I can launch from the other side of Shag. So I think this was maybe necessary. Like I think it was a necessary loss. And I do agree, like it will be fun to have him be stealthy like throughout the match and not just at the start.
What do you think he is in terms of like strength? Do you guys think he is now stronger?
I think he went from D tier to C tier. I think
that's kind of what I'm feeling too.
I don't think he was that good, but I think he was at least like better. Like I feel like you at least had a chance to like snowball a little more, whereas I feel like currently it's like not really. So,
I think he'll actually do very well in the stats. I have a suspicion, but maybe not. Like I felt that killers that have some kind of like gimmick on top of being stealthy or occasionally being stealthy, like Sadako, like they inexplicably do very well in the stats, right? So I don't know. I feel like the developers will think, oh, he's pretty strong. In the tier list that we typically think of like people that know what they're doing and survivors that know what they're doing, I think he'll be all right. I think he'll be probably in the middle of the pack at least.
I feel like the trade-off from going from Pursuer to, I think, Evil Incarnate is what it's called. Do you think that like long animation is necessary? I get they probably tried to do that.
They're making it shorter. They're making it shorter.
I did hear that, yes.
Yes, and they are also, to make up for it, they're giving him a slightly lesser lunge. So basically you'll have more of like a first, like you'll be able to get your lunge quicker in, but it will be a bit shorter or something like that.
Did they
also have more control.
Did they also mention it's going to be more controllable, because it was kind of awkward to aim?
I think so. Yes, I think so. I believe so.
It was very reminiscent of like Chucky, like where you initially were facing when you started the dash, you had like a limited turning based on that.
Right.
But it like felt weird. It felt like it was like unlock sensitivity, then it would like kind of like
lock in, and then right at the end it would unlock again. It was like really weird.
It just felt clunky. Like I think it felt really bad. I think like I think it's okay to have limited movement, but I feel like that limited movement, like you should have unlimited movement within that limited movement, if that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Like your mouse shouldn't be getting like caught up as you're turning, but it also can stop once you get to a certain point. Like like kind of like a pig dash that had limits, I guess, maybe. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Do you guys, on the PTB, did you ever end up actually using the Pursuer mode? I feel like I was always just in Tier 1 and Evil Incarnate, and that was basically it.
No, I did a lot.
You did?
Especially if I got indoor maps. Yeah, it was really, really good. Like, I feel like, especially if I got indoor maps, but sometimes even without indoor maps, it was really good. Especially if you ran, again, that one add-on that made you 4.4 was so nice, too. Because you wouldn't even slow down that much. So, like, you can, like, kind of, like, dip into, like, stock mode to try to, like, or stealth mode to try to catch people off. And I was able to catch people off, like, quite a bit with it. So, I mean, it wasn't like always good. I do feel like sometimes just the more aggressive stay in Pursuer mode always was like fine too. But I feel like it gives you that option if stealth gameplay is like your thing, right? I'm just also not a big stealth gameplay type enjoyer. So like I was kind of forcing myself to, but it did work. Like it worked a lot of times. Like I did catch people like healing sometimes and would get like free downs. Like it did work out for me in like a lot of scenarios. So I do feel like it's an option.
Otz?
I honestly was so like raptured by the fact that he had such big lunges. I did not try the stealth very much at all. And I do suspect that the fact that it doesn't have much downside, the fact that it's available at the start, the fact that you don't have to give up a good chase at the beginning to get to tier 2, all of that is going to add up. And in the occasional match every now and then that you get an indoor map, suddenly this killer is scary in indoor, but also not useless in open maps, right? So I think like that versatility will probably make him climb out of like the bottom of the tier list where he's been for a long time, outside of like, you know, Tombstone and some other silly gimmick builds, right?
Yeah, just
overall better.
I was gonna say, to clarify, I meant not like the stalker mode, the pursuer mode, like the tier 2 mode. Is that what you were talking about, Tofu? Because you were mentioning stealth, but that was like the not stealth mode.
Oh. So you're saying like, did you ever just chase someone in tier 2 as opposed to just stalking them and getting to tier 3?
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh yeah. See, like I guess to me, I would only do that if they stayed injured. Like I did do it a couple
exactly,
times.
Yeah.
Like if they stayed injured and they were in like a weak spot. But you're right that like that is an interesting point, because I do feel like that's kind of what my gameplay loop ended up being. Is most of the time I would just be stalk, get to tier 3, and then play in tier 3, and then once tier 3 ended, I would just immediately go back to stalking again to try to get tier 3 again. Right? It's just like
exactly
tier 2 almost like didn't exist to a certain extent. You know?
Yeah. The only time I'd be there is because I think when you fully stalk in tier 1, you're forced into pursuer, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That was the only time I'd ever be in it. So it does feel like that mode. Like I think it had some other benefits. Like you have like a little bit of enduring, and I think you vault kind of like how tier 2 Myers vaults at a little bit faster. But it didn't seem worth it to really ever hover around in that mode unless the entire team collectively decided to like not heal. And I'm guessing that's what the point is. If people are scared of like, you know, the evil incarnate mode, then people might just stay injured and not waste the time because they're just going to deal with the one shot anyway. So they might stay injured, and I guess that's what it's for. But do you think they could do anything else with that mode to make it more like viable to stay in?
No, I think it's fine, honestly. I think it's okay. Like, I think even if the gameplay loop is just like stalking and getting to tier 3, I think I'm okay with that. Because yeah, I mean, already it's like the punishing injuries thing is kind of a part of it. I don't know. Because I mean, how do you fix that without like?
The thing is, the tier 3 mode, like the new like slaughtering strike mode, you get to it pretty frequently.
Yeah, it's pretty easy to get there for sure.
Like it's not like, oh my god, it's kind of like Plague where you're gonna get it a couple times per match. So like you really need to make a count, and then when you're not in that, he needs a different power. Like Plague, for example, right? She either gets a really, really strong power to instantly injure, or she gets the infection. Like imagine how bad she would be without the infection, right?
Yeah.
So she needs that because her power is very limited. But I think Myers doesn't, because I think it's only 6 seconds of stalking and you already are basically back on the tier 3 quote unquote mode. So
yeah, did you guys use the add-on that increased the stock rate by like 30% or something, but it like limited the range? I found that one to be like super good.
Do you think you'll regret it in some maps? Maybe
sure,
because I think it might be worth it. Honestly, it might be worth the risk. But it's nice that there's a risk and a reward, right?
Yeah.
You get Ormond, maybe you're like, damn, I shouldn't have done this. Sure. But if you get an indoor map, you're like, oh my god, I just won the lottery. This is perfect because now I'm just faster.
I think the add-on changes. Yeah, the add-on changes were actually pretty good for the most part. I liked most of them, I'd say so.
And they even had an add-on that they're gonna make more common for anyone that like the old kit.
Oh, the fragrant tuft. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really elegant way of handling that, right? So if you like, they did that with Freddy as well. You'll remember he has an add-on that gives him his old snares, and I think that's kind of perfect. If it's something that they can handle, if it doesn't add too much extra work, that's amazing. Like if you like all Myers, you somewhat have him still, minus the stupid tombstone. Yeah, and I was really happy with that.
Yeah, I think
we all have a similar opinion because we're just more interested in the gameplay and we all are very experienced.
Yeah.
But ask someone else and they might say something completely different.
I'd say overall the Myers rework was just, it was like, it's kind of lazy, but it's harmless. It's just like, all right, that's fine. I'm cool with this. Like it's not a huge deal. So it's not like a huge debate point in my opinion. Which could bring us, I guess, to the final topic I want to talk about since we're getting her soon. The Krasu. What do you guys think about her?
I'll let you guys go first.
Okay. Honestly, I am a little bit afraid of artist syndrome, but like I am a little bit afraid of this killer being complicated to the point where people maybe go for another killer that is equally or similarly powerful, but like 10 times simpler. So I do hope that doesn't happen to her. I hope she doesn't become like an artist or a singularity, a killer that, very strong in theory, but you see one of them every 3 months. Yeah. So that would be my number one concern. Balance aside, fun of the killer aside, just like in general, that would be my first concern. I don't know if you guys share that concern at all.
I'm curious what Tofu's gonna say. It seems like he got something to say.
I don't find her like that complicated. Like I find her maybe like a little bit like barrier to entry, maybe slightly, especially with like her projectile and like how it bounces off things. But like I don't think she's that like to me like I think the gameplay loop is pretty simple. It's just like infect someone, go head mode, and then murder them, right?
Yep.
So like I don't really find her that complicated personally. And I also think that she is extremely insanely OP, and I think she's gonna be like an S tier killer, and it's gonna be a fucking nightmare.
Damn.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be an absolute nightmare when people learn her.
You're assuming like she's getting some changes for release that will make it smoother, or you think she was already there in the PvP?
Even on the PTB, but it sounds like she might also be getting some changes, which makes her even better too. So it might be even worse. I think even on PTB, I think the only thing that made her maybe not S tier on PTB was the fact that you can maybe body block with like uninfected people, but that requires like an insane amount of teamwork, and even then it like could be punished.
Yeah, it's not gonna happen super often every game. Like
that's for sure. And she had like a purple add-on that made it so like if you hit somebody, it like spreads like.
The shotgun and off of them. Yeah, that was really good for that.
So like if you had that add-on, and then if they fail to body block, you would basically down the person and then also infect the other one, and then you could immediately down them too, and then bam, it's like game over. It's like literally you instantly lose. So even like the counterplay that made her potentially not S tier was like so risky that you could completely lose the game instantly if you just mess it up. So like that killer is nuts. I'm telling you, like I think if you play against a Krasu who like understands like the killer really really well and understands like the limits, you're not surviving in chase for longer than like 30 or 40 seconds. It's like it's like almost like I mean maybe saying a nurse S chase is too much, but maybe honestly like you just die, like you literally just die.
You played her a couple days straight, right, Scott? What
I played it for like the entire PTB, and like when I first started, I was like, oh, she's pretty good, maybe like low A tier, but then by the end, I was like, okay, this is like a plus looking, at the very least, because it's weird, like the way that she is countered, like I'm sure like you guys have both agreed that her weakest points are like shitty round filler loops, because she's in this awkward spot where she has to like switch back, but then she takes a while to do it, and like then they might leave to a connecting loop, and then you go back to head, but then you're in the same spot again. So she's like a reverse killer where the better the palette, the stronger she is, which is kind of cool, but I am worried about her scamper, her Chucky scamper, let's just call it that. I am genuinely worried about that.
Yeah,
a lot of people seem to be under the impression that there is no such thing as a killer vaulting a palette or vaulting in power in a way that's healthy. Do you guys think that as a general rule, it should be completely gone? Because I saw the point, and I do see the point of it, but I mean, there's also Legion, which a lot of people don't have an issue with, and Wesker's vault. Like, I also think a lot of people don't have a huge issue with that. So is there a way to make that like not like awful, or should they give it up altogether? What do you think?
I mean, I think it can only be there if it's extremely weak and niche. Like, I do think Wesker's is like, because it's so bad, it's okay. And I feel like, for instance, you can say the same thing about like Chucky Scamper. Like, I think Chucky Scamper is like another one where it's like so niche and like his current scamper. I mean,
current scamper,
like so niche. Yeah, it's like so niche and like not good. But there's like maybe scenarios where you can catch people off guard with it and get hits, which is like cool. But like for the most part, it's not like good. I feel like it's like, it needs to either be like really weak and niche or not exist at all. Because I feel like if like the gameplay loop becomes like just try to force this scamper constantly, like how like Kaneki does it on pallets a lot of times, and like how old Chucky was, and again how Krasny is probably gonna be. It's just like very like it's not fun when that's the main gameplay loop of the killer. Is like, let me just vault everything you vault. And
you guys think it's that strong? I'm not questioning it. I just think both of you have played it more than I have.
100%
video.
Yeah, a lot of
I disagree even with what Scott said about round. I don't think there was a single palette that anyone was able to stay alive against that killer on. Like even Shaq palette, you could force window
the new
and then kill.
Oh yeah, no, I think Shaq is actually fine. I'm talking about like the new McMillan God Rocks that are not quite as gaudy anymore. I was kind of struggling to get hits there.
Yeah, see, I was at first, but like when you learn to like, because you have a little bit of turning with the dash,
a little
right?
bit, yeah.
Like you have a little bit of turning, and then also there's like a weird like, how do I explain this? Like if you guys have played Hillbilly, you know how you can like slide along walls as long as you don't like face the wall too much.
Directly, yeah.
Like you can sort of face the wall and slide. That was also a thing with that killer. Like on a lot of loops, you can like kind of dash while facing the wall slightly, and then also turn at the end. And like even on like kind of round loops, you can still kind of like like turn in at the end of
And,
the dash.
and if they
still
buffer
hit on the
even a little
pallets.
bit to have less collision, then even easier then.
Which it sounds like they're
Right,
doing,
yeah.
right? I think they
Which
mentioned.
exactly.
they most certainly will, I think.
Yeah. So I think they are doing that too, which means it's going to be even more of an issue, right? Like it's going to be even stronger. So like I think already on the PTB there was literally I don't think there was a single pallet that anyone was ever able to like there was some where I struggled a little bit while I was kind of like limit testing and figuring out like how much I can face the wall without colliding and stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like I was doing a lot of like limit testing, but like towards the end, especially once I started getting it down, there was not a single pallet that I felt like anyone was able. Like I never kicked a pallet. I didn't have a kick a pallet ever. I just like if they were infected
Really?
and I was head mode, I just followed them until I killed them, and they usually died pretty quickly every time.
Wow. Okay, so let me present you a scary situation, a scary scenario, right? Let's say all of this is true, and even more so because they give her some quality of life and more smooth movement and everything. Let's say all of this comes true. She's very, very oppressive. But the developers look at the stats and they see that she's not overperforming, similar to Nurse.
God.
And then they buff her. Or they leave her as she is. Because
Nah.
I actually think that could very, very well happen. Right. I want you to think of like killers that historically are like supposedly high tier, but then the stats were not good and they got buffs, or at least they were not really addressing in a way. I think these killers have something in common sometimes, and it's the fact that if you spam the power and you don't quite do it right, you don't really get anywhere. Think, for example, Plague. How many times have you seen a Plague that tries to infect you, but doesn't understand that if she's not super precise and you're not locked in animation, you never really get infected, right? Or an artist that sends 3 birds at a time, 3 birds at a time, 3 birds at a time. She keeps losing blood loss. She's not making progress, right? Or an unknown that misses every other shot and then never ever downs you. Or a singularity, especially back when EMPs were stronger. He keeps infecting you, but you keep shrugging it off. I think this killer might have that syndrome where people do not understand exactly how the head works. They play her at the lower levels of experience. They don't understand that the projectile is actually very, very small. And they struggle so much and they do so much without getting immediate results that the stats for the killer are very, very deflated. And then she could be all of those things you described, but the developers would still not nerf her and might even buff her. We could be heading into that.
I want to go ahead and say I don't actually think. Okay, I don't think the developers are quite so stat heavy as they used to be. I feel like I agree with you. If this was maybe like 3 years ago, I think I would be concerned. I do think the developers have, within the past few years, done a really, really good job of like being more perceptive and like kind of like being better about that kind of thing and really looking into like more of like the difference between like, you know, people with experience versus not experience, and the fact that like the stats don't always mean everything. I have a lot of faith in them right now that I don't think that'll happen. I do think, for the record, that Krasu is going to be insanely impressive on release, and that it's going to be a bit of like a terror for a while. Like I feel like it's going to be like a Kaneki 2.0, especially because, okay, the one change I'm worried about too is that you didn't lose your infection when you got hooked, which was like in the PTB it was fine because you didn't want to tunnel, right? But now that the anti-tunnel stuff is probably not coming to live or whatever, if that stays, this killer is going to be like the #1 tunneler it's going to be a nightmare, bro.
I honestly didn't even think of that. That's such a good point.
Yeah.
Like I never even thought of that because in the PTB I was allergic to anyone that came off a hook. You're right.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
man.
It's gonna be 3v1s at like 4 gens, like almost every game. Any game where they know what they're doing, it's gonna be a nightmare.
Even as like an aside, I don't think the actual infection is hard to hit, and you have like no cooldowns. You can try 5 times in 10 seconds. It's really not that hard.
Yep, absolutely.
So yeah,
it's
that's a problem.
It's gonna be a lot, but I do think, for the record, that I do have faith in the devs that like they're gonna, like, I don't think they're quite so stat brained anymore. Like I get there's a lot of like kind of, I don't want to use the word trauma. I think it's kind of an extreme word, but I guess I'll use it anyway. I know there's a lot of like kind of trauma around that, you know, around like people like knowing in the past that they've like done changes based on stats, like, oh, this killer's kill rates are high, so we gotta gut them or whatever. Like I know they've done a lot in the past, but I think have come a long way, and I do think they understand a lot. Like I think, like, teams change a lot, right? Especially development. I think the current development team is very good at that, to be honest with you.
I can see your point. I think of some of the recent killers, and for example, I think Master could be an example to look at. She was a killer that was buggy and very, very sluggish on release, and they buffed her. And I don't know if you guys remember, but for a while she was genuinely kind of insane. Like, you could vault a window and the dog was so unbelievably fast after you. You literally could not vault anything in chase. And that made me lose a little bit of faith. I'm like, because they really didn't address the fact that she's buggy and sluggish. They just gave her a numbers buff. But to be fair, then they corrected her with another, and she's still buggy, but in a better spot. So yeah, I'm hoping you're right.
In regards to Krasu, I think like they must know because they put her on the list of killers, like, you know, with, you know, Blight and Nurse that get less.
That was very surprising.
Guess rewards. So yeah, they seem to think she is very strong, which would make me surprised if they did buff her. But then, from what I've seen in the patch, like being able to do headlong flight directly into Vault is kind of going to be crazy. Like I feel like they're making the scamper aspect even stronger, which is going to make people hate her. I think she's going to be one of the most hated killers in the game.
Do you have any killer tweaks that you would do to this character that could like steer her in a different direction?
I don't know, because a lot of the strength does rely on her scamper. If they kind of make that useless, then she's suddenly not that amazing. At least I think. What do you think, Tofu?
I think I kind of agree, but I do think they could make their scamper a little bit weaker. And I for instance, I think them removing or adding collision, I should say, to her like headlong flight, I think was a bad move. I actually really like that. I like that like little like a little counterplay option of trying to like scurry in front of someone and then appear in front of them. It kind of made like an interesting like way of spacing. It's kind of like Wraith. Like if it's like a cloaked Wraith, how you like claim space or whatever. Yeah. Like it was kind of interesting, and I like that. And I think they could have kept that and then maybe nerfed the scamper a little. And then also maybe gave them a little bit more control in like the actual like, you know, like dash attack ability or whatever. And I think that combination could have maybe helped to the point where it'd be more about just trying to catch someone out of position and then hit them with like an interesting dash curve, as opposed to like getting right on top of them and like back revving them. You know what I mean? Because I feel like that's currently what it is you're almost like hitting like the quote unquote back rev with like the dash.
I found
you have no chance of missing.
I found the back rev actually like kind of harder to hit because like she doesn't have a hitbox immediately when she uses that. So it's like you almost want to be a little tiny distance away first. Did you ever get frustrated by that? Like I would like try to hit medium vaults and it just wouldn't hit.
Yeah, I did. I was whiffing a lot. Yeah, that's true. It was weird. I agree. Like the actual ideal distance was maybe like 2 or 3 meters away.
Yeah.
But like I would almost consider that like I think the point is still like you want to get to that like ideal distance before you use it. Whereas I feel like if they made it so that like you were trying to hit like max range ones with like a curve or something that like people could like maybe like juke. Like I think you can make it more of like a jukeable power, you know, where it's more about like playing 50s as opposed to what it currently is, which I feel like is like just basically guaranteed death.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what's one thing that's really breaking my heart with this killer?
What's up?
She has a bounce feature with her projectile, right?
Yep.
Where you have the ability to shoot at something that's not the ground, for example, a wall, right? And make it like break into smaller projectiles. And I find that so fun. I really like the Trickster's bouncy blades. I really like the Unknown's bouncy projectile. But the game is so not ready for that sort of power. There are so many walls that just have like odd geometry. And I honestly wish this killer had come at a time where the maps have some kind of like pass where all of the walls are like more straight. And if you shoot at a wall, it doesn't get stuck on like a tiny little blemish on the wall and then blows up in a completely unpredictable angle. That would have been so nice. I would love to like use that aspect of this killer like from a distance and stuff, like find angles where you can, I don't know, hit someone on a gen from like a crazy bounce, right? It'll be fun, but hard to rely on it, I feel.
I feel like I didn't have trouble with that at all. I feel like the spray is so wide, like even if I don't like even hit in the correct general area, sometimes just random splinters just go and hit them anyway. And again, the cooldown is like, it's like 2 seconds. It's so short that I think, I mean, I'm not saying the jank bouncing is a good thing, but I'm trying to say I didn't feel like I was really negatively affected by it because I could just try again so quickly after. So I didn't mind that.
Do you guys like the fact that she has a power that you can somewhat spam with no much distance loss? I did calculate it, and she does lose a tiny bit of distance from using it. It's not like completely neutral, but it's very little. Like, do you like that, or do you think that sort of thing should go? Because I know Tofu, for example, in the past did not like other killers being able to like buffer their abilities and stuff, and I'd like to pick your brains on that.
I think the cooldown's too short. What about you, Tofu?
I think it's okay. Weirdly enough, I think it's fine because of the collision stuff that Odd said. I think because it's like prone,
I feel
like I think because it's prone to potentially getting fucked over by weird collision. That's why I'm kind of okay with it being. And also, it's kind of a mix. Like it should be easy to hit, assuming collision's working, right? Kind of like you said earlier, Scott, right? Like assuming collision's working, it should be pretty easy. You hit a wall behind them, it sprays all over them. You know what I mean? But like the only way that shouldn't work is if collision cucks you. So I feel like that means like this is like the one instance where I feel like I am okay with it being like kind of spammable without really affecting you much. Because I feel like the only reason you wouldn't get it fast is if you like got cucked over by bad collision.
But at the same time, you think she's S tier and overpowered, but you don't want that aspect of her changed. What do you want changed then?
Her head mode. I think her head mode is just way too strong and needs like more counterplay options. Because I feel like if you just make it more frustrating, like I don't want it to be frustrating to have to infect people, right? Like I think that would just create like an annoying, frustrating gameplay loop. I just think that like once you're infected, you should have at least more options, right? You should at least be able to like create more like 50-50 scenarios where you at least have a chance of surviving, right? Like I feel like you can sometimes, like in the current Krasu, I feel like you can sometimes create like these like, I don't know, 90-10 scenarios where like you were still almost surely dead, but like maybe you can do a weird juke or something. But like I just wish that there was a little bit more options on the survivor side during head mode, I think is what she needs.
And could you summarize again real quick what you would change about like the head mode to make it more palatable, I guess?
Oh man, I feel like I would have to like really fully like actually like feel these changes, but I would suspect that if you made vaulting like pallets like slower, right? Like just make like the actual action slower. Maybe gave her like some kind of combination of like more control during her like dash attack and also like more turning and maybe even like more range depending on how much was needed. I don't know. Like it depends on how much you nerf the scamper, I guess, right? Like like kind of buff her like dash ability a bit, and then also take away the collision during headlong flight again. That way it becomes more about like just trying to catch people out of position with like headlong flight and then trying to like hit a dash attack with like a 50. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I think that would be more interesting to me as opposed to getting like guaranteed hits. But even that, I'd have to like, I think you'd have to tweak those a lot to find like, the perfect values, and I think it would be really hard to do. I think this killer's hard to make work with
without a doubt,
kit, honestly.
Do you think the removing of the collision was a buff or a nerf?
Oh, that was a nerf to her for sure. Like, or wait, you mean adding collision is what you mean, right? Like the fact that there is.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry.
Now,
yeah,
right?
I got there first. Yeah,
the collision changed in general, right?
Yeah. I think that was a nerf because before you could just go straight through them and then appear on the other side, whereas now you have to go around them, which just adds like more distance,
a little bit more time.
I mean? Yeah. Like I guess in theory, like you could get in front of them a little bit faster. Like I guess I'd have to feel it because maybe you can get in front of them a little bit faster and kind of like because you don't have to be fully in front of people to body block them, right? If you're like diagonally in front of them, you block them. So like I guess until I feel it, it's hard to say. But I would suspect it would be a little bit of a nerf. But maybe it's about equal. I don't know. It's hard to say.
Yeah, I mean, I love playing Wraith, and it just felt like Wraith gameplay minus the collision. So if they add the collision, it's just going to be literally Wraith. But I kind of love doing that. I love that little like when you get to the point where you're on the same position as them. Like, are they going to turn around? Should I commit to this now, or like do I don't know. I kind of like that little mini game with Wraith, so I kind of enjoyed that with her as well.
Yeah, it's a really good like spacing like little mini game that you do in Chase that's really fun. Like I like it. It has a lot of back and forth.
Yeah, I think she's really fun to play. I'm definitely looking forward to playing with her. I'm really worried about the reception. I think she is going to be so hated, but I guess we'll have to see.
I think so too. Yeah, I agree.
All right, that was the last kind of bullet point I had. Anything else you guys wanted to bring up on this first episode? It's almost 2 hours already, so we can call it here if you guys are good.
Yeah, something that you're excited about in the future of DVD. Can we talk about something nice and positive, like something that's changing or that you're excited about? We know you're gonna be able to see your solo queue teammate Perks sometime in the future. That's good, right?
Yeah. I think that's the thing I'm the most excited about, like being able to see your teammates' perks and actually being able to use perks like Deliverance in solo queue and not being a complete waste. That's probably the thing I'm most excited about. Yeah.
I want to see anti-camp meter on the UI. It's not so much to ask.
True.
Why is that not there?
So simple. Why not? Yeah,
it's got to be the most frustrating thing in the entire game when your bar's at 99 and then a Meg just starts creeping up toward you. You're like, just fuck off, go away.
That's so sad.
Yeah. All right. Well, this was a fantastic conversation. Thank you guys for joining me very much. I think this was a fun time. Definitely excited to have you guys back again at some point when some crazy shit happens.
I really appreciate hearing your insight on so many things. Thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you. And you guys were all naked during this, right? I made that very clear.
Yeah.
Okay, of course.
Oh, yeah, we're free balling.
Excellent. All right, well, that is going to be it. Thank you so much for hanging out, and we will see you next time.